that it is going to give you the optimal path from the initial state to the goal state, then your algorithm is called admissible. Just a second, students. So I was discussing about the admissibility. When can you say an heuristic is admissible? We can say the heuristic is admissible only if there is an optimal path from your starting state to the goal state. Then if your algorithm guarantees you to find that optimal path from your initial state to the goal state, then we can say it is admissible. Okay. Now, second thing, what happens over here is that we have a question that whether my algorithm A star is admissible or not. See, please concentrate when I'm speaking this thing because this is a popular, question in your external exams that A star algorithm is admissible or not. The answer is yes. A star algorithm is admissible, but with only one condition that it would never, we would never overestimate the value of h dash. Even with the any algorithm that we use, that if we are overestimating, h dash is the estimation of the heuristic value. And if we are too much estimating the heuristic value, then there are no chances that we are going to get the optimal solution. So if our algorithm or if the heuristic function we are using never overestimates the value of the heuristic function, then we can say our A star algorithm is admissible. Let's understand this through one example. See, in the first scenario, it underestimates, and in the second scenario, it overestimates. To consider this, okay? See, there is a node A, we explore it, we get node B, C, and D. At this moment, node B looks most promising to us. But when we explore the path, the function cost becomes 6, 3 plus 3. And now no longer this node is promising to us. In fact, we might have underestimated the value of node B. Maybe the node B would have cost 6 instead of 4. But due to the function whatever we have used, this value got underestimated, and when we moved along this path we got to know that the initial value that shows that goal state is near, but it was not actual value or not correct estimation. The goal state is actually far, so moving along this path is not getting us any benefits. And now observe with the overestimation. Okay. So now in place, what happens that for this node B, we estimated that goal state is far away and we just discard this node B. Though doubt there is an optimal solution lies, goal state is achieved after few steps. But we discard the search on node B and we go for searching C and D node because at B we have overestimated the value. At B, we suppose the heuristic function value is 6. So now no longer we need to go along the path B and we need to go for path C and D. So in this case, when we overestimated and discarded this path B, at that time what happened? We were not going for the optimal solution. And when we move along path D, C and D, though there is a solution that could be exist, but that was not optimal. This thing happened. Okay. So here, what happens that if you are underestimating, that is not a problem. Somewhere you are going to lead to the solution and you will reach to the solution. But if you are overestimating, then this doesn't guarantees you to find your optimal solution because somewhere you are discarding that search trail. Okay, so this is what I need to share about the A star and its admissibility. You can refer this thing in the book, whatever I just said. And now we come to the AO star algorithm. And before the AO star algorithm, we must be getting familiar with the concept of AND OR graph. See here in AND OR graph, what we do is that we have a problem and we reduce the problem into smaller problems. And each of this set of smaller problems must be solved individually. So here, suppose you are having a problem that acquire a TV set. So there are two ways of it. You can directly acquire the TV set by stealing it. And the second option is earn some money and then buy TV set. See here you notice that to accomplish this goal, buy TV set, first you have to accomplish this sub goal, that is earn some money. So here to accomplish this particular goal, buy TV set, we have to accomplish this goal, earn some money. So we have to take into consideration that arc over there, that this buy TV set could not be achieved individually. It can be accomplished only when we earn some money and then we can go for completing this or solving this problem to buy a TV set. And then we achieve the goal of acquiring a TV set. This is what is happening in AND OR graph. Let us solve with the best first search technique. Okay. See, whenever you are using AO star algorithm, you will see that it is a combination of best first search technique, A star algorithm. Okay, with few modifications because just we need to consider arc over here. So at first, figure 3.7a, you look, there is a node A, and in front of you there is a node B, C, and D. So out of B, C, and D, which node you will select according to the best first search solution? Give me the answer. According to the best first search solution, which node you will select over here? Tell me, anybody. Which node you will select over here according to the best first search solution? आप ही बोल दो कौन सी नोड सिलेक्ट करेंगे बेस्ट फर्स्ट सर्च सॉल्यूशन से say if you are using best first search solution over here, then there is node B, C, and D, and C node looks most promising if you are using best first search solution. But if you are not using best first search solution, and here we need to consider the AND OR graph, then you need to take in consideration the cost of whole arc. That is 5 plus 1, 6. The path from A to B will cost you 6, and the path from CAD will cost you 9. How 9? 3 plus 4, somebody would be thinking that it will be 7, but how 9? See, plus 3 plus 1 and 4 plus 1. The plus 1 is the computational cost G that we used to have. You can read it over here that for simplicity, my mouse cursor is there. You can read it over there. That for every operation, we have a uniform cost that is adding simply 1. So the computational cost over here is fixed to 1. But for simplicity, in exam, if I might change that, consider the computational cost to be 10, then you need to consider the computational cost G to be 10. And at that time, what you will be doing is 3 plus 10, 4 plus 10. Okay, that is how you are going to do. So 13 plus 14, that would be your path cost. Okay. So here, the path from A to B is costing me 5. The path from A to C, but that path can only be, like you can only go to path D if you achieve this C. So in and all, you need to consider this path CAD, and that path is costing us 9. So we will definitely not go for that path. We will always go for exploring B, the path with the minimum cost, that is 6. So now we have explored B, C, and D after some time in our search, and we can see the path cost over here 17, 9, 27, and the whole path is costing for 38. Okay, for the arc CD. So at this time also, node G looks most promising to us with the cost 3. But here also we will not explore node G because the path cost is very high, that is 38. And even if you consider this path A to B, so 17 plus the previous value is 5, that is maximum it will cost you 22. Okay, so this particular path you will not go for exploring. Here you will go for the path which is having the least cost. And here you need to consider those nodes, the one which in arc. So don't consider the individual node cost. Consider the cost of arc. So again we will go for exploring path B. Now termination conditions about this. So this was we are using solving AND OR graph using best first search technique. So what would be the technique over here? See, best first search failed. Failed because say G looks most promising, still we are not exploring it. So what we need to do over here is that we put a threshold value to abandon the search over there. How to abandon our search? See, there is a one variable named futility. So if the estimated cost of solution becomes greater than the value of futility, that is the threshold value. So we go on searching and searching, and if the estimation of the cost becomes higher than the value of futility, then we abandon the search. We terminate the search. We don't go for searching new solutions. So sometimes we tell failure over there. Okay. So again, doesn't provide you the optimal solution, doesn't provide a solution, doesn't guarantees you the solution over here. And this adding of variable futility into this particular best first search solution Here's you the other algorithm that tells us name problem reduction. Okay, but this is not, you don't need to go into this topic much detail because it's very difficult and we don't have in our syllabus problem reduction. Okay, algorithm. स्टूडेंट्स आप धीरे बोलो थोड़ा, यहाँ पे बांस में बांस. So there comes the other algorithm, that is problem reduction. Now, what was the problem with this algorithm that we have to propose A star algorithm? See, this algorithm was working fine. Step A, we are having node A. Step 2, we are exploring node A and we get three successors of node A. That is B, C and D. B and C are having arc. So the cost of path is CAB is 9 and for path from A to D is costing us the value 6. 5 plus 1, that is 6. 3 plus 1, 4. 4 plus 1, 5. So 4 plus 5, that gives us the total cost of the path, that is equals to 9. So CAB gives us value 9 and path from A to D gives us value 6. Now in this case, which one we should prefer? Obviously the one with the least cost. The path from A to D is least cost. So next we are going for exploring D. So when we explore D, we get a cost of 10. At this time, node B looks most promising. So then in step 4, we again go for exploring node B. It is observed that even after adding futility to abandon the search when this search cost becomes very high, what happens that we come along two problems. Okay, see here in figure 3.9, there are two paths to reach to the node J. The one path is from A to B, B to H, and H to J, which is a longer path. But this path is considered better compared to the other path. Why? Because there is other path which is from A to C, E, and directly J. And this path is better, but a shorter path, but not better. Why? Because there is an arc between C and D, and one node is labeled unsolvable. So even if you move, even this path is shorter. The path from A, C, E, and J, it is shorter. But still, this path would not be preferred. Because what happens is that the node D is unsolvable. So somehow we are going to meet a dead end over here. So in that case, a longer path may be valuable. But in this algorithm, there is no extra modification to add this longer path. Okay. And besides it, there was intersecting sub-goals. What if there is some situation like this, which is shown in 3.10? See, both nodes A and D intersect at D. In this case, there is an arc at A. Okay. So here, to reach to D, we have to go for C. And to reach to C, also we have to go for A. So this is a case of interacting subgoals. In that case, what is to be done? So for these two things, there was a problem with the problem reduction algorithm. So quite modification and we'll end up with the algorithm AO star. Okay. So here AO star came up with the modification to the A star algorithm. Okay. So solution to the first problem, this longer path, was provided by using graph data structure. So if you use graph data structure or a single list named graph. So graph was one list that was maintaining, okay, parent of J is this is a shorter path, this is a longer path. So everything was maintained in this list graph. Or even simply using a graph data structure would help you to if you use a directed graph, then it was very easy to give the solution to the above problem that we were facing. So the first problem was solved using this graph. Then futility is already there. Okay. Then the intersecting, how we provided the solution to interacting goals. See, for interacting goals, what we did is we used to have a backward propagation over here. And that backward propagation idea came from the best first search algorithm. Remember, in best first search, we used to do path switching. If we see that this path is not favorable, go back, have a backward propagation and move to the other path. So path switching and backward propagation, that was the thing that is added into the AO star algorithm. And for this, we were able to cope up with the problems that we have seen in figure 3.9 and figure 3.10. So AO star come with the solution, and as you see, this algorithm its steps are very similar to the A star algorithm. Also, it is admissible. It is guaranteed you the optimal solution. So with the AO star algorithm, this you can do is that now you have to trace the curve or labeled arcs and find the cost of arc. The one with the lowest cost, that is the selected path. So even if there is no arc but the path is cost is low, select it. And if there is an arc and arc cost is low, then select that path. Go for solving that one. That is what is in this algorithm. Okay. Now I'm supposed to teach you this particular thing, last topic of this chapter, constraint satisfaction. In this, what we are going to do is we are going to solve the correct arithmetic problems. The one you are seeing on your screen is the correct arithmetic problem. Cent plus more, that equals to money. This is some message that we need to send over the internet, and each alphabet holds a number. So the decrypting party, they have the task of finding out which number is associated with the alphabet. So you can send a passcode using this one, and if you are having internet transaction, pin numbers and something like this. So whatever you get. So if you want to send it, you can use the crypt arithmetic problem to encrypt your numbers into alphabets. And both the decrypting parties must be knowing about this alphabet numbers, how to decrypt this. So to solve a crypt arithmetic problem, we use the approach constraint satisfaction. Okay, this algorithm constraint satisfaction or approach. Now how to solve it? See, there are 5 rules for it. Okay, I'm not writing because I have written the rules in the previous lecture. Okay, first lecture of 5C1. I'm just sharing that particular image on my screen. Okay, just wait for a second. See, I would like each and every one to take a screenshot of these 5 rules. Taken? Taken? Yes. Hmm. So now what we are going to do, I'm going to explain you the first rule. See, the first rule says that each alphabet only takes one number from 0 to 7. Okay. So see, I will be using my whiteboard for this purpose, for explaining all the rules. So suppose you are given something like this. Okay, send, just now we saw that. Okay, move, and that equals to money. So here each alphabet can take only one number from 0 to 9. Okay, so we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you have allocated S, the value of 5, okay, so if S is equals to 5 we have allocated, then E can be any number from 0 to 9 except 5. Now 5 is allocated to S, so we cannot allocate it to any other alphabet. If for E, suppose you have allocated the value 7, then for N, there could be any number from 0 to 9 except 5 and 7. N can be any number from 0 to 9, but it should not be 5 or 7. So if we have allocated 2 to N, then D can be any number from 0 to 9 except 2, 5 and 7. So the rule number 1 says that you have to allocate only one number can be allocated to an alphabet, and that number should not be allocated to any other alphabet. So if you have allocated 7 to E, then this number 7 must not be allocated to any other alphabet. Clear about this rule number 1? Clear? Now about rule number 2. Okay. So rule number 2, I'm reading it out. Carryover can be maximum 1 when we will add 2 numbers. Maximum 2 when we will add 3 numbers. Maximum 3 when we will add 4 numbers. Let me explain you what is this. Suppose you are given something like this, A, B and C. You need to add it, okay? 2 numbers, okay? Suppose C is equals to 2 and F is equals to 4. Then we get over here is 6, okay? Now, suppose C is equals to 5 and F is equals to 6. Then we get 1 over here and there would be 1 carry over here. So 5 plus 6 we get 11. So we put 1 over here and 1 will be the carryover. Now the rule number 2 says that when you add 2 numbers, okay, now suppose we are adding 2 numbers, assuming the value of A equals to 9. So when you add 2 numbers, the maximum carryover that you can get is 1. 9 plus 9 we get 18, carry over is 1. And why only 9? Some must be arguing 10. Why 10? Why we are not assuming the value of A to be 10? Because alphabet can only take a number between 0 to 9. It cannot take value 10. So each alphabet can only take a number between 0 to 9. And that is why the maximum number that A can assume is 9. And 9 plus 9 we get 18. Done? Now, what if I add A plus A plus A again? Okay, so now I am adding 3 numbers. So 9, assuming the value of A again to be 9. 9 plus 9 plus 9, 27. So the maximum carryover over here is 2. Now, if I add A plus A plus A plus A, assuming the value of A to be 9, here it is 6. We get 36. 3. The maximum carryover is 3. In this case, it is 2, and this case, it is 1. So when we add two numbers, the maximum carryover is 1. When we add three numbers, the maximum carryover value is 2. And when we add four numbers, the maximum carryover is 3. That is the rule number 2 says that. Okay. Now moving along with for the rule number 3. Rule number 3 says that sum of two same numbers must be an even number, and it is only applicable when both the numbers are on unit place. Now, again taking the example, we are having A, B and C. Okay, and now you are having D, E and C. Okay, assuming C value to be 2. Okay, so 2 plus 2, here we will get 4. So sum of two same numbers will always be an even number. Okay, this is even if you take C value as odd number. See, 3 is an odd number, but when you add 3 plus 3, we get the value 6. Again, 6 is an even number. So sum of two same numbers is even number when the same alphabet is on unit digits. So currently it is in unit digits. That is why we can say that this could be even. Okay. But what if there is a scenario like this: A, C, and B, and here we have D, C, and E. Okay. Now this turns out to be the odd number. Why? There might be a possibility that this turns out to be the odd number, not even number. Why so? Because there might be a carryover from this place over here. And in this case, suppose if we assume that it is 9 plus 9, value of C to be 9 plus 9, and there is one carryover. So it becomes 19 and this becomes odd. So this condition, rule 3, is only applicable when we have two alphabets on the unit digits place. But if they are at tenths or hundredths place, then we are getting an odd number over here, then we must assume that there is a carryover over here. So if C plus C is getting you the odd number over here, then there is a carryover over here. Clear with the rule 3? So let's go for a rule 4.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Rule 4 says that if two numbers A and B, the sum of A and B is A, then the value of B must be 0. If A and B are in unit digits place, and the value of B may be 0 or 9 if A and B are other than unit place. Okay. Let me explain you. Again, taking the example of this. So you have something like this: A plus B is equals to A. In this case, we can clearly say that B is equals to 0. Okay, so A plus 0, that is equals to A. So if A is 1, then 1 plus 0, we get 1. This is equals to A. This is very simple. But when these are in unit digits, suppose you are having something like this: D, A, C plus E, B, F, and this is resulting into A over here. Okay, in this case, value of B might be 0 or 9, because if there is a carry over over here, then in this case value of B must be 9. Okay, and if there is not a carry over here, then it is 0. Okay, so this particular rule 4, it clearly states that when they are in unit place, you can clearly tell that value of B is equals to 0. But if they are in hundreds or tenth place, then value of B might be 0 or 9. Okay. So we need to always consider this case of carry over here. And finally, rule number 5 says that if you are adding two numbers with n digits and the resultant is n plus 1 digit, then the nth plus 1, that is the leftmost digit, is 1. Suppose you are having like this A, B, C plus D, E, F, and you are getting a result G, H, I, and J. Okay. So it tells that the value of G is equal to 1. Why? Because when you add A plus D, we get H, and 1 is the carry over here. According to the rule 2, when we add two numbers, the maximum carry over would be for two number will be 1. Okay. So the value of G is equals to 1. This rule is very important because it always gives a kickstart with the correct arithmetic problem. So if you are having something like this A, B, C, and D, E, F, and you are getting one extra digit over here, that is G, H, I, J. So this leftmost digit is equal to 1. I hope 5 rules are clear to everybody. Clear? Any doubt with any rule? Any doubt with any rule, students? Okay, then I'll take the attendance. I'm terminating the meeting if you are not having any queries about this. Having any queries, students?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No,
Yes?
ma'am.
Okay, then I'll terminate the meeting. Thank you, students, for attending the lecture.